Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag. This is not AMC Movie Talk, the daily movie news show over at AMC Movie News. This is AMC Mailbag. See, here's what happens. We got a segment on AMC Movie Talk called Mailbag, where we ask you guys to send in questions. The problem is we only have time to get to 2 or 3 questions a day, and you guys send in 200 questions a day. So we started this new show that we do a couple of times a week called AMC Mailbag, and all we do here is discuss the questions you send in. Now, you're going to find out right away, this show, a lot more casual than AMC Movie Talk. I'm just sitting here at my desk. I don't really pay attention to the clock. We just sit around, much more casual than the other stuff than we normally do. So listen, right now I'm going to introduce the 2 guys who are joining me today. First of all, he is the production manager at AMC Movie News. He's also the guy who runs Think Heroes, Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, how you doing?
Doing great. Excited about Man of Steel. We're going to see later tonight.
I'm also really excited that you upgraded your bandwidth and we can see you really clearly now.
Yes, I am not talking from the past anymore. I have not traveled through time.
All right, also joining us today, he is talking about today being Man of Steel Day. This dude is directing a documentary called The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened? Mr. John Schnepp. John, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm really excited. I can't wait to see Man of Steel tonight. That's we've been talking about it for months now, for years now, but it's just built up to this thing. So can't wait. Super excited.
And listen, by the way, for those of you who are watching us in the LA area, we're all going to go see Man of Steel tonight at midnight at the AMC Burbank 16, which is also where our AMC Movie News studio is. So if you want to come down and watch Man of Steel, find us. Say hi. We love to say hi. We love meeting people, and people stop us there and say hello. We get a big kick out of it. So listen, let's start with the movie news, and we're going to get to the first question today. And the first question comes from Adam Chevereller. Dude, I'm so sorry if I'm butchering your name. And he writes, "Hey guys, I have been watching the show for a year now. Well, we haven't quite been doing the show for a year yet, but thank you. And I think you guys are great. But I heard that there are going to be 4 villains in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Is this true or not?" Well, yeah, I think there's going to be at least 4 villains. I mean, because you got Electro with Jamie Foxx, you got Paul Giamatti playing Rhino, you got Dane DeHaan being the young Osborn, and I'm sure. What's that?
Cooper.
Chris Cooper's
playing
right.
the older Green Goblin.
Playing the older Osborn. So, I mean, there are at least 4 villains there.
And then I heard yesterday that they revealed that they cast I can't remember what actor. We could look it up in a second. Playing the Vulture is going to show up.
Really, I didn't read that.
Yeah, it came out yesterday. They announced the actor. We can pop it in later or something, but I can't remember the guy's name. But yeah, they're definitely building for Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man 3 is going to be the Sinister Six. Now
we don't know that.
Well, yeah, we don't know that, but it seems like that's what they're.
Here's the problem. So there are going to be 4 villains, but don't get freaked out by that number, because don't forget, if you look at Avengers 2, there were minimum 4 villains in that film. You had Loki, you had Thanos, you had I was about to say Green Arrow, Hawkeye. You had Hawkeye, who for a good part of the film was a villain. You had the Chitauri, who were another set of villains. You had whoever the head of the Chitauri are that talks to Thanos at the end. He was a villain. There's 5. So just because you hear there are 5 bad guys doesn't mean there are going to be, or 4 bad guys, doesn't mean there's going to be 4 bad guys who are all vying for equal screen time, and they will all have equal importance and all that kind of stuff. I mean, for all we know, the Osborns are each going to be on screen. I mean, Dane DeHaan could be on screen for 15 minutes. Cooper could be on screen as the senior Osborn for 5 minutes.
Right.
If Vulture is indeed there, he might just pass through in one scene. So just because we hear there are 4 villains, that's nothing to get, concerned about. Now if we go watch the movie and they do try to split 30 minutes of screen time between each of them and balance them out, that becomes a problem. But don't get too worried just because you hear there are 4 villains. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be treated equally. Dennis, when you hear about stuff like that, what's your reaction?
Yeah, I get a little concerned, but I don't think they are going to have each of those villains as an actual, a full-blown, like, okay, here we have the Vulture, here we have Electro, here we have. I mean, right now I think only Electro and Rhino are going to be like full-on, like in their costumes and fighting Spider-Man.
Right.
And I think the other ones are going to be on the side, and I think that's okay. And Sinister Six, if they do it for 3, I'd be really excited. I love the Sinister Six. I love those storylines in Spider-Man.
Schnepp, how do you react to it?
I think it's great. In fact, I just looked it up where the rumor came from. It's like Colm Feore is his name, and he's playing the Vulture supposedly. But like whatever his I can't remember what the actual Vulture's name is. Not the Vulture, Francis Cobblecrimp or whatever his name is. I can't remember. But yeah, I think it's going to be Green Goblin is going to show up at the very end. And that whole Gwen Stacy thing is going to erupt, and we're going to be left with this crazy cliffhanger. That's how I think. That's what I'm hoping happens. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But, yeah, bring the Sinister Six on. I don't think that it's going to be too overwhelming to have, like, a few – it's all storytelling and all soap opera, like, setup, I mean, that's what all comic books and all these things are anyway, these massive storylines where everybody's intersecting each other's lives, including villains. So the more the merrier. I want Mysterio. That's who I want.
But don't you think it's a little bit early? I mean, I kind of get excited, too, at the idea of a Sinister Six, but isn't Part 3 maybe a little bit early? Like, at this point, we haven't even met Mysterio. We haven't even met a lot of these guys. Wouldn't you want to build something like that up maybe for a Part 4 or 5? Like,
hell yeah. I would make Sinister Six Part 6. I just think everybody's so eager to make some stupid trilogy. They're like, well, it has to happen in number 3. I'm like, yo, just sign these people on, give them millions of dollars. Don't get that Robert Downey Jr. thing happening with $75 million, but like, get Garfield, like, nail that dude down. Like, yo, we're gonna shoot one a year,
one a week,
one a week.
Why not, man? They make TV shows. Come on. But I'm just saying, like, make one a year. Get 6 movies. Let's do it. And then Sinister Six in Part 6 makes perfect sense. You have Mysterio. You can have Chameleon. You have Spider-Man has the best villains. Him and Batman, bar none, have the best villains.
They got a great pantheon of villains.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next question here. The next question comes to us from Elijah Agaton, who writes, "Hey guys, great show. Thank you so much. Watching it all the way from the Philippines." Hey, my wife's from the Philippines. Anyway, my question. I heard about you guys talking about a World's Finest movie instead of a Justice League movie. If Warner Brothers do go that way, do you think it can compete with something like Avengers 2 and Star Wars Episode 7? Your thoughts, thank you, and God bless. Well, thanks a lot, Elijah. Now, this is assuming, and this is a massive, massive assumption that has no basis in fact yet, that if they did a World's Finest, and for those of you who don't know, basically, when you hear World's Finest, you're talking about Superman and Batman. And originally, when they first started talking about a Justice League movie, they were talking about having it come out in 2015. That has since been debunked. Warner Brothers is not committed to 2015 for a Justice League movie or for any movie at this point, for that matter. As a matter of fact, it might be as late as 2018, 2019 before we actually see a Justice League movie. It's not impossible that we could see it sooner. Not at all. And we got Star Wars Episode 7 and we've got Avengers 2 that are both scheduled to come out in 2015. Could a World's Finest hold up and stand up with those two powerhouse films? Well, I mean, understanding that they're not going to open on the same day. But, yeah, I mean, if Man of Steel goes over well with fans, Batman is already incredibly popular. So, I mean, there's huge popular, even though they're going to have to reboot Batman. And no, I know I keep breaking your hearts when I say this. Christian Bale is not coming back to play Batman again. It's going to be a rebooted Batman. The Christopher Nolan Batman universe is done. You'd be surprised, guys, how many emails I get a day from people asking if Christian Bale will be coming back for Batman. No, he's not. But still, even though it's a rebooted Batman, everybody loves Batman. And so, would it beat Avengers 2 at the box office, a World's Finest? No. Would it beat Star Wars Episode 7 at the box office? No. But I think it can hold its own. And I think it would do very well in the summer of 2015 if that were to ever happen, which I do not think it is. But Dennis, what about you? How do you think like a World's Finest would hold up in a summer of 2015?
I mean, I think it'd do pretty well. I don't know if it'd reach Avengers Star Wars status. But by the way, John, you forgot, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is Robin, He's gonna be Robin.
Please do not get me started on that.
He's the new Batman.
Uh-huh. No, he's Robin. He's Robin.
Nightwing, dude. Come on, he's not Robin. Or is he gonna? He's just Robin in an all yellow Batman outfit, just running around. You know.
Okay, what about you, Schnepp? What do you think about A World's Finest? How could it hold up in the summer of 2015?
You know what? I mean, I think it would do all right, but I mean, if it's a rebooted Batman, we don't have enough time to reboot to get that whole origin, a brand new origin story with Batman, which they're going to do. They're going to just basically reboot the entire universe with Superman being the first guy, the first superhero, and then all these other people are going to start showing up, like Aquaman and Wonder Woman. That's what I read today. They're going to push those movies, I guess, kind of ignore Green Lantern, like that never happened. That's like the Ang Lee Hulk now. I don't know, man. I really want DC to get their game plan together a little bit. Everything, they keep making announcements, then squashing them. So it's sort of like, hey, if you're going to make World's Finest and you guys are going to rock right into Man of Steel 2, reboot Batman while you're at it and get that coming out when Man of Steel 2 comes out, have the new Batman come out, then do a World's Finest after that. So,
see, I'm not so convinced that you need to do a rebooted Batman movie prior to doing A World's Finest. And I'm not so sure that, like, let's look at it this way. When the first Tim Burton Batman movie came out, they didn't really tell the origin story. That movie started with Michael Keaton already as Batman and has been Batman for a little while.
Well, they had the story. They did the story the same way Batman Begins. They had that little flashback with, like, with the Tim Burton one. You see him leaving the Zorro Theater, and the guy, kills his parents, and it's, oh my God, it's the Joker, in the Tim Burton version.
Right.
And in the Nolan version, they still had those flashbacks, but they did it with him falling into the cave and all these other. They had these flashbacks that also harkened back to the Zorro movie theater with his family getting murdered. They did it in flashbacks. They could easily do that in flashbacks, I'm sure, in World's Finest. But I think to properly set up a new Batman, you just have to do a new Batman. I mean, it's not going to be Christopher Nolan's Batman, even though Christopher Nolan is like producing the Superman movies. I just don't see it like fitting into the same Nolan Batman universe. That's I don't see it happening.
See, the thing is too. Let's look at you mentioned the Ang Lee Hulk. Well, let's look at the Ed Norton Hulk for a second. I mean, that movie had no origin story. I mean, they just basically told an origin story in the span of the opening credits because they assumed that we, the audience, were already familiar enough with the origin story that they could just kind of allude to it very quickly in a 2-minute sequence. I think they could do the same thing with the Batman. I think they can. Go ahead.
I was going to say, here's the thing about by doing that, you're already you have to recast everybody. You're also going to have to recast Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yep.
I mean, it's sort of like. I mean, and the Batman trilogy took everything so far, like, it did this whole kind of the Batman Rises, Dark Knight Rises, I'm not a big fan of, and, the whole thing with Scarecrow and like throwing these people out into the icy riverbed and all this kind of stuff. It's better if they just kind of reboot it from scratch, I think, and let Batman do a new origin. If so, I like your idea of doing it in the credit sequence, because everybody knows Batman's origin. So, we might want to just get right on a new case. The Penguin, the Riddler. There's a whole bunch of different characters that can be part of the Batman, first new movie. But
Dennis, what about you? How do you think they should handle Batman? Like, do you think that they have to do another Batman movie first? Can they just ignore his own movie first and launch him right in with a World's Finest? How would you deal with it?
I definitely would do a Batman movie first because you want to get people used to whoever the new actor is and the new tone of Batman. So whoever that actor is, like, okay, now that's Batman. So when they do a World's Finest movie, we already know, okay, well, Henry Cavill is going to be in it, and then whoever this new Batman is. I think doing that movie first would kind of throw people off. Be like, that's not Batman, And in terms of the origin story, I think you're right. They should just do in the credits or something. We all know the story.
Right.
We've seen it twice already. Like, we don't need it for a third time. Just kind of glance over it, maybe mention it here and there, but don't spend a lot of time on it.
All right. Well, let's move into the next question then. The next question comes to us from Adam Johnson, who writes, "Great show, guys. This question is about critics. It seems like they're way too negative about movies that are actually great and entertaining. Do you think that it's bad for the movie industry financially when critics bash movies to the point that regular moviegoers feel like they don't want to see that movie anymore? I know it's just opinion and that us consumers should find out for ourselves, but I know a lot of people that change their plans to go out to the movies for the right night let me try that again. I'm having problems here. But I know that a lot of people change their plans to go out to the movies for the night because of overly harsh reviews. Well, Schnepp, what do you think? Are critics too negative these days? Should people not listen to the critics?
I don't think so. I mean, I think, I listen to a select few critics that I enjoy their opinion, and those are the ones that'll make me decide whether I'm going to go see a movie on Friday or Saturday night, or wait a week, or wait till Netflix. So, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, and of course, there's people who are like, who will slam a movie, and I'm like, yo, I'm seeing it anyway because I think it's going to be great. Like, it really depends on your opinion, basically. If you're going to listen to other people's opinions, like, case in point, I did not enjoy The Dark Knight Rises. I, in fact, kind of hated it, but it made billions of dollars, and there's people who will swear by it as being the best movie in the world. So just because that's my opinion, you can argue with me about it. We can go face to face and like talk about it or yell about it or whatever. That's not going to change the fact that it made billions of dollars and it's super successful and that a lot of people enjoyed it. That's just one opinion. Critics, the more criticism happens, there's like people who just, that's all they do is criticize films. And criticism is not necessarily a negative thing. It's simply someone is informing you and telling you of their opinion. They've seen the movie before you and they're critiquing it. So don't think about criticism as like instantly negative. It's actually both positive and negative, 50-50. So that's my opinion.
Dennis, what about you?
Well, I think one about the critics being so harsh. Yeah, there are some, but in general, it's not that bad. I think people overemphasize. I mean, look at something like Iron Man 3, which I enjoyed. Star Trek, which I enjoyed. They both have, I think, like Iron Man has like a 70-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. Star Trek has an 80-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's actually fanboys. If you listen to fanboys, that's where a lot of the harshest criticism comes from.
Yep.
They're the ones that make it sound like these two are like the two worst movies ever made.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think people do take critics into account, but I don't think they have quite the influence that people think. I mean, look at Transformers 2 and 3. Bad reviews. Those things made tons of money, and no one stopped anyone from going to see those.
Yeah, and most of the hatred that I heard about Star Trek Into Darkness was from like dyed-in-the-wool Star Trek fans who were like hating on like the dilithium crystal chamber was different or whatever. Something really bunged them up, and I didn't like that they used the dialogue from the Wrath of Khan. It's like chill. Yeah.
My favorite one was when people would complain, why did they get a British actor to play an Indian character? You do realize it was a Latino dude playing Khan in Star Trek 2, right? Like you do know that, right?
Right.
But here's the thing about the critics, the financial repercussions of critics. I remember this one great conversation I had with one of the publicists from one of the studios who said, critics, they actually pay very close attention to what the critics are saying. Because the critics, they say, have like anywhere from a 10 to 15, 16, 17% swing. So basically what that meant was, let's say you got a movie that was going to make $100 million, all right? Now, if the critics all really, really bash the film, that movie could make 85. If the critics all really, really, really praise the film, it could make 115. So you've got like a 30% swing in box office that could happen as a result of, now that's if it's a unified critic voice, which is very, very rare. You don't normally get all critics loving one movie, all critics hating another movie.
Except with something like After Earth.
Yes. Yes.
Like
in that case, we are all united.
Yeah, that was like they were all out for M. Night Shyamalan, and then on top of that, they were like, "Yo, Will Smith, are you gonna?" And then, bam! It's like super explosion of hatred, and then most audiences didn't like the movie either. Like I still haven't seen it, so I can't really talk about it.
Yeah, I finally did, and I choose not to talk about it anymore. But the other thing you mentioned in your email, Adam, you said something really interesting. You said, critics will give something a bad review even if the movie's awesome and excellent. Well, awesome and excellent according to who? According to you? Well, then you are essentially just, if you're saying that, then you're saying you're a critic. That your opinion is what matters, and that's what gets me up. Now, and also remember, too, people have this image of film critics as being these 55-year-old, white-haired guys with ascots who just are old dudes who don't like modern movies and who don't like what the younger audiences like. Don't forget, when you're talking about a site like Rotten Tomatoes, that's actually a site that has hundreds and hundreds of film critics from all scopes, newspaper critics, online critics, television critics, all this kind of stuff, critics from every single medium. And some are 50 and 60 years old, but guess what? An awful lot of them are in their early 20s. They're dudes with long hair and wear Slipknot T-shirts. There are dudes who wear the ascot and the shoot. I mean, when you're talking about the critics, it's a really wide, diverse group of people. And I find normally, like I didn't with Hangover Part 3, I actually quite like Hangover Part 3. Most of the critics didn't. But I find normally, when you collect all those critics together and you average out what their general score is, I usually find they're pretty right on. Like Dennis was mentioning, the Star Trek Into Darkness is in the mid-80s on Rotten Tomato. I think that's pretty accurate. Iron Man 3 is in the mid to high 70s. I think that's pretty accurate. When you look at a movie like Avengers, it's in the mid-90s. I think that's pretty damn accurate. So there's this perception that critics don't like good movies. Yeah, that's not true. Now, can it hurt box office? Sure, but here's the thing. If you're going out, and I gotta be careful here because I work for a movie theater company, but let's be honest. If you and your girlfriend or you and your buddy are going to go out to a movie tonight, say you're going to go see Man of Steel, you're probably, when you take into consideration gas, buying your tickets, and getting some popcorn and soft drinks, you're probably talking about spending 30, 40, 45 bucks for the night. It doesn't hurt. Like, if you were buying a car, you would go online and look up reviews of cars. You would see, what are people saying about this car? I want to make an informed decision when it comes to spending my entertainment money, when it comes to going to movies. And so, as a film fan, damn right, I hop on and I look to see what the critics are saying. I don't necessarily take what they're saying as gospel because they have their opinions and I have mine, but I take it into consideration because I'm talking about spending 30 or 40 bucks tonight. I want to hear if it's worth it or if I should go see This Is the End instead, which, by the way, This Is the End is pretty bloody awesome. You should go see it.
Can't wait to see that.
Oh, man. Yeah, once you're done
Hilarious.
Once you're done seeing Man of Steel, go out and see This Is the End because I think it's the best comedy of the year so far.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I think critics are valuable. I think they serve a great function. You just got to know how to utilize them right. Because we're talking about spending a lot of money.
I just got some criticism from both Dennis and John Campia. Now I'm going to go see This Is the End.
There you go. All right. Any other thoughts on this, guys, before I go to our next topic?
No.
All right. Let's
critic out.
All right. Let's move on to the next topic. The next topic comes from Leslie Clark. And Leslie writes, correct me if I misstate events, but Robert Downey Jr. is in talks for Avengers 2 and Avengers 3. Yet there are no standalone Iron Man films for Phase 3. If we are skipping Iron Man for Phase 3, fine. You can put another Marvel film in its place and come back to him in Avengers 3. Or do Iron Man 4 with another actor to start Phase 4. But surely we can't have Robert Downey Jr. do Avengers 2, sit out while another actor does Iron Man 4 for Phase 3, and then return for Avengers 3. I do not have all the pieces to the... Do I not have all the pieces to the puzzle yet? You're right. You're absolutely right. You can't have Robert Downey Jr. step aside and have somebody else do Iron Man 4, and then have Robert Downey Jr. come back and play Iron Man in Avengers 3. You can't do that, but I don't think that's the plan. Dennis, have you heard anything different, or how would you handle that?
No, I mean, there's no plan of, like, switching actors for the same character, but I do know that Robert Downey Jr. doesn't want to do a standalone film. He just wants to do Avengers, and so that's where the negotiation between him and Marvel/Disney is are they willing to give up a whole standalone film during the phases in order just to have Robert Downey Jr. in Avengers? Because that's what he wants. And so it's kind of a thing where, are we going to listen to him? He has, the audience loves him, but at the same time we want to have another movie. So I think that's kind of where the clash is going to be versus swapping out actors and stuff like that.
What do you think, Schnepp?
I don't know. I mean, we've been talking about this Robert Downey Jr. thing for a while here, and the more we've talked about it, the more I feel like he might be. I think he might be asking for just a little bit too much. $75 million. I mean, that look, he's worth a lot of money, and granted, he's my favorite Iron Man ever because he's the only Iron Man ever. Joss Whedon said it best, like we talked about. He's like akin to Sean Connery as James Bond, and we all know that James Bond has been played by like 8 actors now. So I think as we proceed in further adventures of Iron Man, I think a new actor needs to be cast as Tony Stark. And, to round out the Avengers, that's why you're not seeing Iron Man 4 in Phase 3, because there's all these other Marvel characters that we'd love to see films of. So, I mean, I'm kind of in that, like, I don't need to see. Iron Man 3 was it for me. He got his heart fixed. He doesn't need the armor anymore. He can be a background character. He could, like, actually get someone else. We obviously already have War Machine, now the Iron Patriot. There can be another person who puts on the armor. It doesn't have to be Tony Stark. So henceforth, Tony Stark is already going to be a cameo. If they want to make him part of the Avengers 2 and 3, he can turn into a cameo and not need $75 million and put everyone out. I mean, it's sort of like, if he's going to get $75 million, why not give Chris Evans and Hemsworth $50 million each? Now you're starting to talk about, like, well, even if the movie makes $1 billion, it costs $200 million to make, $150 million in like ads, campaigns, and this and that, and then ticket sales. Half of that goes here, half of that goes there. You're talking about, like, wow, we didn't break even, and we made $1 billion because all of our actors cost $300 million. It just doesn't financially kind of work out. So I don't know. I mean, I just am adding this stuff up in my head. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Disney, tell me I'm screwed. I don't know.
Yeah, and we should note that we don't know for sure that Robert Downey is specifically asking for $75 million. It could be a very, very different number. But these are the rumors going around. Here's the problem with all that, though. Iron Man 3 just made over $1 billion at the box office. That means to Disney, this is a very, very valuable property. The Iron Man property is extremely valuable, and we get to print money with it. With that being the case, and considering that Iron Man is one of the big centerpieces of Avengers, I don't think we see Avengers 2 with Iron Man as a cameo role. And I don't think we're going to have a Disney that's willing to just give up on standalone billion-dollar film franchises like Iron Man as their own standalone films. What I still believe, I've been saying this for a long time, pardon me, what I'd like to see happen is, I think at this point you do what you can to get Robert Downey Jr. back as Iron Man, at least for Avengers 2. Do what you can. Don't throw everything at him. Don't break the bank to give it to him. Don't do something insulting to human intelligence, like don't give him $80 million to be in it. But do what you can to get him back, because I think we'd all like to see him back for Avengers 2. And at that point, after Avengers 2, I say let him go. If he's willing to stay, let him stay. But if he still has really high demands and whatever, and doesn't want to do standalone Iron Man movies, let him go. It will survive. It will do fine. I mean, we've told the story before. I remember a lot of people, when Batman Begins was coming out, a lot of people were like really angry, saying, if you don't get Jack Nicholson back as Joker, I'm not going to go see this movie. Well, guess what? They didn't get Jack Nicholson to come back to play Joker in any of the films, and a lot of people still went to go see the movie. So, I mean, when you hear all these people who get online and say, if you get somebody else to play Tony Stark, I'm not going to see any more Marvel movies. Yeah, that's really courageous to say right now. But guess what? In 2 years, when Avengers 2 is coming out, or when Avengers 3 is coming out, or when Iron Man 4 is coming out, and the trailers look awesome, and they get another really good, high-talent actor playing the role, you're going to be in line to see the movie just like me. And you should be. That's the smart thing to do, because they can do it, and they can do it just as well. I mean, we might not get somebody who can play the role as well as Robert Downey Jr., Maybe that's the case. Some people will argue that their other James Bonds haven't been as good as Sean Connery. Personally, I think the James Bond we got right now is the best James Bond we've ever had. But that's just my opinion. But let's just not have knee-jerk reactions. That's all I'm saying. When it comes to the Robert Downey Jr. thing, But I believe you are right, Leslie. What they cannot do is have Robert Downey Jr. in Avengers 2, have a different actor in Iron Man 4, and then have Robert Downey Jr. back in Avengers 3. That is something you can't do, and I completely agree with you on that.
Here's one thing that's already happened in the continuity of the Avengers and Captain America and Iron Man. Actually, in Iron Man 2, Tony Stark's dad was played by a different actor than Tony Stark's dad in Captain America. They're totally two separate actors, and no one really got all bunged up about it. So, honestly, I think everybody's got to move forward and be like, hey, we're making an amazing movie. Let's make money. Let's all make something that everybody wants. And hopefully they can negotiate with Robert Downey Jr., but if it just gets too crazy, it's time to move on. I'd love to see him play Iron Man in Avengers 2, 3, and 3 more Iron Mans. That'd be great. But I don't think that's going to happen. So, I agree with you. Avengers 2, 3, but if it just gets too crazy and weird, then, let's move on,
All right, and let's indeed move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Jonathan B., who writes, "Hey guys, love what you know. What are the chances of seeing a 4th Rush Hour movie? When Rush Hour 3 was announced, I figured it would take place in New York, but no, Paris. How about a 4th one, returning to the States? Schnepp, you be up for a Rush Hour 4?
Absolutely not. I think Jackie Chan retired. So, unless they were just doing a Rush Hour 4 and it's like them as parents and their kids are doing like flippies and going crazy and stuff, I would go see that. If it was Rush Hour 4 and they're retired and Chris Tucker has got like 6 kids going crazy, and it all takes place in a 6th grade, and that like Jackie Chan's a teacher. I'm just saying, like, make it a different movie. I don't know. No way. Rush Hour 4, no.
Dennis, what about you?
No, I'm not. I don't think they should. I like the first 2 Rush Hours. The third one was, I don't even really remember. I know I saw it, but I don't remember it. But you look at it today, like Chris Tucker isn't the name he was back then. Jackie Chan, even though he's an icon and a legend, he just hasn't been really doing movies, at least American movies lately. And so I just think the time has passed.
Yeah, and I don't think Chris Tucker should have ever been a big name. I think I don't have much respect for the dude's talent level. I will say this: I didn't like the first Rush Hour. I really did like the second one. Surprisingly, I really enjoyed Rush Hour 2, and Rush Hour 3 was a big steaming pile of snot. It was just terrible. The best I know about, 3 months ago, Jackie Chan said no, they're not. He has no plans to do Rush Hour 4. He said maybe me and Chris Tucker might get together to do another movie, but it wouldn't be Rush Hour 4. It'd be something different. And if that's just because those two dudes like working together, you want to be Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn? Yeah. More power to you. Go try something. But I'm not big on the idea of Rush Hour 4, and I don't think many people would be either. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from...
They should do
what's that,
Kindergarten Cop 2.
Kindergarten Cop
That would
2.
be... It's like Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker, like hanging out, at a kindergarten, and then Schwarzenegger does a little cameo.
All right, next question comes from Caitlin Webb, and Caitlin writes, I have a question regarding marketing. If a production company wanted to promote an upcoming TV series, would releasing an accompanying film before the launch of the show help draw in a larger audience? It would essentially be a pilot for the new TV show. Any thoughts? What about you, Dennis? Thoughts on that?
That is an expensive way to make a pilot for a television show. If movies didn't cost so much and it took so much work to get them in theaters and marketing and all that stuff, then maybe that would work. But given the dynamics of all that stuff, it makes no financial sense whatsoever.
What about you, Schnapp?
Well, the most recent thing I could think of is The Avengers, and since that was such a giant billion-dollar movie that they were like, hey, maybe we can spin S.H.I.E.L.D. off into a TV series, obviously a lower budget, almost like procedural kind of cop show, but with S.H.I.E.L.D. and occasional, mutants and superheroes in each week. We don't know how S.H.I.E.L.D.'s going to play, but I think it's going to be a great series. But that's actually the only recent thing that's spun out from a bigger movie into a separate TV series. But I don't think that was the plan. I don't think they made Avengers and they were like, yeah, we're going to make a S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. It was sort of like an organic thing that just happened. So,
Yep. Pardon me. Here's the thing. Movies, I don't think it's something Dennis makes the best point. That's a ridiculously expensive pilot because you're probably spending minimum, if it's a no visual effects, no big name stars, minimum you're probably spending $30 to $50 million on the production. Then you're spending $20 to $30 million on marketing. Then there are a bunch of other costs that come in. It's ridiculously expensive. Plus, TV shows and movies are two very, very different things. I mean, I had this great conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about the Game of Thrones, the Red Wedding episode, which if you watch Game of Thrones, you know what I'm talking about. And I won't give a big spoiler away, but it's pretty dramatic and got a lot of people talking. Yeah. A friend of mine said, it's not often in movies that you get to see something that dramatic, like the Red Wedding. And she was right. It's not often. It does happen, but it's not often that you can have something that has that kind of an impact as the Red Wedding did in Game of Thrones. But my counter to that was this. A movie only has 2 hours to introduce you to all the key characters, introduce the conflict and the dilemma, give you some character development and develop the story, and bring it to its conclusion in 2 hours. Game of Thrones has had, at that point, 29 episodes, about 20 hours of screen time, and 3 years to build you to that point. So you can see immediately, and Dennis and I have a friend, Chuck, who's, always talks about The Shield. Like, The Shield is his absolute favorite TV show.
The Wire.
The Wire. Thank you, The Wire. The Shield is also a very good show.
Yes.
But talks about The Wire, but says, but you kind of got to get through the first season to really, like, the first season isn't very good, but it builds up so that when you get to the second season, then you really understand everything that's happening, blah, blah. A movie doesn't have that luxury. I remember when I was listening to a Q&A with Joss Whedon once, Joss was talking about how this was shortly after he finished shooting Avengers. He said movies are so infinitely more difficult from a storyteller's point of view to make than TV shows because you have such a small window. And to create something great and something that really communicates what's going on and to make an emotional impact on the audience in that small window as compared to a TV show where it's like, hey, I can't remember what the redhead's name was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who becomes a witch.
It's Allison Hannigan's character.
Yeah.
I don't know what her name
character. He said, we want her to become a witch. Okay, we've got a year and a half to build up to that. But whereas you don't have that in a movie. So trying to start a story at the pace of a movie and then shift gears completely to go into a television mode, I think you'd almost need two completely separate crews in many ways. It's just they're two such different things. I don't know that it can work all that well. What do you think, Schnapp?
Ron Howard was thinking about doing that with the Dark Tower series. They were going to do 3 standalone movies and also shoot 2 seasons worth. Like they're going to shoot a movie, then 10 episodes, then a movie, then 10 episodes, then a movie. Of course, it all fell apart. But that's the most recent I've ever heard of someone trying to like put everything together so you have this kind of like television experience and then a bigger movie experience that's wrapped within the same actors. So, I mean, that never happened, but Avengers is happening. So, are you guys still there?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Well,
I can't see you guys, so it's all as long as you can still see me. It's all.
Oh, we can see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Look. Well, the last question from Jonathan is really just about something we've already covered about how do you reboot Batman. So I think we're going to skip on that one and just say thanks for joining us, guys. We're done. This has been an episode of AMC Mailbag. The 3 of us are going to be heading off to see Man of Steel in just a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So, Schnepp, just quick, where can everybody find you online? Where can people find you and follow you on Twitter?
You can just add John Schnepp on Twitter and like my page on Facebook. I have a director's page there, and also join my Facebook page, The Death of Superman Lives: What Happened. And you'll be able to find out more about the Tim Burton Nicolas Cage Superman documentary that I'm making. That'll be coming out at the end of this year. So.
And Dennis, where can people follow you on Twitter?
People can follow me at ThinkHero. And you also can check me out on AMC Movie Talk all the time.
Absolutely. And listen, guys, thanks again for following us. Make sure you come back and join us every day. Tomorrow on AMC Movie Talk, I mentioned this on the show today, but I'll mention to you now. Tomorrow on AMC Movie Talk, the three of us, and I think Clark Wolf will be joining us. All we're doing tomorrow for tomorrow's AMC Movie Talk is just talking Man of Steel. That's it. And we're not going to shy away from spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie yet by tomorrow, or if you don't care about spoilers, then what you might want to do is just put it in your queue and watch it after you've seen it. But we're going to talk about Man of Steel for like 25 minutes alone. So that'll be our show tomorrow. Thanks a lot for joining us. My name's John Campia, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. And until tomorrow, bye-bye.